I'm pretty excited today because I just bought myself a new gun. I actually traded for this. For those of you who didn't read the title for some reason, this is a Japanese Type I rifle, which is I is for Italian. It's an Italian Carcano, built under contract for the Japanese in, I think, 1937 or 38. And it's fitted for a Type 38 Arisaka stock. And yeah, these are pretty scarce rifles. There were some imports of these in the 60s, but most of these are bringbacks. And of the bringbacks, a lot were sporterized or just lost. And there really aren't too many out there anymore. I traded a Makarov for this, Makarov with accessories, and I got this Type I and $160 cash. So these are pretty cheap, cheaper than Mosin right now. And from disassembling this, this is a far better rifle than a Mosin gun. This just has to be cleaned up. And this is completely untouched condition. Probably hasn't been disassembled in well over 70 years. All the screws are good, they haven't been buggered up. The grease in here is all dried up and flaky. Let's see if you can get close. But yeah, completely untouched, unmaintained for 70 years. So the wood is dried out a bit, and there's some dried grease, a little bit of rust, but this will clean up very, very nicely. I'm definitely not going to take off any finish or anything. This isn't going to be refinished. This is just going to be cleaned up and made pretty again, but definitely not Bubba. This is a collector's item. Just want to go over some of the neato disassembly things I found out about this, because this doesn't disassemble like a Carcano, and it doesn't disassemble like an Arisaka. So those of you that have these and may not have the mechanical aptitude to figure out how to do it, I'll show you a couple tricks that I found out disassembling this. So first off, this little lever here that looks like a safety is actually a magazine floor plate release. So you push down on this lever and the magazine floor plate and follower and spring come out. That's kind of neat. Butt plate comes off just the same as any other butt plate. This is a dovetailed two-piece stock like all the Arisakas. That's why it has the split right here. Wood's just dried out, hasn't been oiled in 70 years. It's got stock bands up in the top. Where did I put it? Here it is. Here's the rear band. These come off so easily compared to a Mosin. Just push it down and they slide right off. The top band is the one that kind of gave me some issues. This is the top band here with the bayonet lug, and this little bar here, it looks like a piece of wood, but it's actually a piece of metal, and you push that down and this comes off. Really neat little feature. Other than that, it disassembles the same as any other bolt action. It's got two screws that go into the bottom of the action, right here, right here. You can see it's pretty crusty, but underneath all that is some really excellent bluing. But yeah, here's the bolt, case hardened, really great condition. This looks like it has, I don't know, 20 rounds through it, 50 rounds through it. It's basically brand new. It's just been sitting around for 70 something years. I got the Arsenal tag with it, that's upstairs, and I got a cool white rifle stock that this supposedly came in from the warehouse it was liberated from. This is a series, a 6025, so rifle number 6025, out of a contract of between 60 and 120,000. So very early gun. This is the long buttstock type, before the Japanese complained. So this is the full length buttstock. Feels really great. So just gonna get this cleaned up and then we can go see about shooting it. Well, I've got the stock soaking in some boiled linseed oil right now. I rubbed it down really well. It's sitting a nice thick coat, soaking it all in. And I've been cleaning off the rust and packing grease and gunk. I guess this is the result after 70 years of sitting in its own filth. It looked like factory packing grease that was on this thing. So yeah, this is essentially a brand new rifle. Like I said, it's probably got 50 rounds through it at the most. There's almost no wear on any of the moving parts. But yeah, the rust ate away at the bluing, and we're down to bare steel. But pitting isn't really that bad. It's definitely shootable, and we are not going to fix this gun. We are going to preserve it in a state that's not going to degrade. So we're going to take away active rust and old grease, and we're going to oil it up and keep it clean and oiled. And if this does get left in a closet again for 70 years, the next person to find this will still be able to shoot it, because we have stopped the rust on here. So I'm going to move from the barrel onto the receiver and clean up all that dried oil and rust. And I'm just using some Croil for some of it, and then some of my oil mix for some of it. This is mostly 10W50 Mobil 1 full synthetic with a splash of hoppies and automatic transmission fluid. And taking it off with 4.0 steel wool and a bronze and nylon brush. And it comes off kind of slowly, but you gotta take your time with this. The 4.0 steel wool won't hurt your bluing, but it'll take off the rust. It's just slow. But when you're dealing with a collectible rifle like this, it's best to go slow and not hurt the value. With these Type Is, there's always a quest for markings, because they're notorious for simply having a serial number. Some people have been able to attribute the rifles to Beretta, or it might have a Gardone stamp, or a name escapes me right now. But in any case, you're just looking for some sort of maker mark. I have found two marks that might mean something to somebody. I will have to do some more research, but there is a number 2 on the receiver here. Number 2 all by itself, and then on the trigger there is an M on the trigger. And yeah, clean the rust off. Beautiful high gloss blue. The only wear and rust was below the stock, so this will all be covered up by the stock. Just keep it nicely oiled and it won't rust anymore. We've stabilized it so it won't get worse, and it won't get better either, because this is going absolutely nowhere near this gun. This is just getting oiled and kept as is, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. The trigger and sear are beautiful, color case hardened. I probably don't see that in the video. Sights are flip up style out to 2400 meters. Yeah, beautiful gun. It's too bad somebody neglected it for 70 years, but I'm glad they left it in a cotton sock, rusting in its grease, then cut up the stock and try to make a hunting rifle out of it. There is a marking on the handle. It is a 45 in a square. Number 45 in a square. What that means, I have absolutely no idea. But just on the lookout for markings. Oh, here is another one. Here on the safety or cocking indicator, whatever you want to call it, inside of an oval is either a WS or an SM. My guess is it's an SM in an oval on the cocking indicator. And that is all for right now. So I'm gonna work on this bolt next. It doesn't need much work. It's not rusty at all. But get a good oiling on that, and then I'll move on to some of the smaller parts. And I just worked on the cleaning rod here, and I found another marking. Not anything super significant, but there is a 5-pointed star on the cleaning rod. So I don't know if that's an Italian mark or if this is some Japanese cleaning rod taken off a Type 38. But yep, threaded at the end in the white. It's got this raised rib here with cutout, and then part for a patch, 5-pointed star, and yep, that's all. Cleaning rod. It has seen bayonet use, got some wear up near the muzzle. So at some point there were bayonets attached to this. This uses the standard Type 30 bayonet. The Italians didn't make bayonets for these, so it was a standard Japanese bayonet. Yeah, that's about it. Bolt cleaned up great, nothing wrong with that. So yeah, I guess the next step is to start putting all this stuff back together and give it a final wipe down and final look at everything cleaned up, put back together. Well, I've wiped off our oil, and this is about an hour-long soak in boiled linseed oil. And you can see it's got the crack right here, which is normal. You can see it's dovetailed. The side's a little worse, but still nothing wrong with this. This has closed up just a hair with the application of oil. And there's that old adage, one coat every day for a week, one coat every week for a month, one coat every month for a year, and then one coat every year for the rest of your life. And that's how you get the good oil finish on a gun stock. But yeah, nice dark brown color. Few dings and dents, but absolutely no complaints. Kind of interesting grain there. And you have to look at the top handguard. Pretty nice as well. Stick a little oil on there. Yeah. Nice color on there. No cracks or anything. I'm pretty impressed. It is in really, really fantastic condition. Much better than I thought it would be. Reassembly of the Type I is really the reverse of disassembly. It's pretty intuitive, but I'm making this just for those of you who want to see some differences between the Carcano and Arisaka. First step, we're going to take our stock, and this has been oiled with boiled linseed oil, keeping the original brown finish on there. Absolutely zero sanding is going to be happening on this. Take our little recoil lug thingy that fits up here in the stock, and then we can flip her around, lay her down, and drop in our barrel receiver. It fits in nicely. Okay, at this point, I'll show you, we're going to take our front band with our bayonet lug. This slips on to the front of the stock here, has this spring retainer, and we're going to go rounded end forward so it can accept a bayonet, and that slides on and locks in place. Pretty easy. Then we're going to take our top handguard, put it back where it's supposed to go, like so. Take our front barrel band. This is universal, doesn't matter which way it goes. And it will fit over the top of this just barely. And it slides all the way down, clicks in place. And then the rear sight gets dropped down on top, and it's locked in place. So that's how you install the stock. That's the first part of it. Once that's on there, we're going to put in our screws for the action. And there are these two machine screws. There's a long one and a short one. And pretty sure the long one goes in the back here. Long one in the back next to the trigger, short one up front. And we get our properly sized screwdriver and go back until it clicks, and then we can go forward so we know we're not cross-threading, and then very gentle pressure on there. We're not going to bugger up these screws because there's no chance of getting replacements. Just be very careful with these. Okay, nice and firm. Go back to the front and check. Because we are going to be shooting this, so we want these nice and tight for the best accuracy. And they are. So that's how you put the stock back on. Pretty simple process. I think the major hang-up for people is going to be that spring tab in the front for getting the front band off. It looks like a piece of wood, but it's actually a piece of spring steel, which is pretty interesting. I haven't seen that before. Well, now we can put, while the rifle is upside down like this, we can put in our magazine floor plate, follower spring, and follower. This tab in the back goes in the back here. This drops right in. The front part latches in like so, and it hinges down and clicks. Pretty simple. Now we can take angled up here. This is the rear sling swivel going back in the stock, and this is also a universal fit, left or right doesn't matter. And you can take are wood screws. There's 4 wood screws in this rifle. 3 are the same size, 1 is longer. And the long wood screw is the one that goes up front. And then of these 3, the 2 that are the most worn on my rifle are the ones that go for the butt plate, which means this one is the rear screw. And these use the same size screwdriver as our action screws, so these will go in nice and easy. Again, backing off the threads before you go forward, because these are wood screws and you can strip out the holes in these. Now, perfect example of why you need a properly fitting screwdriver. These screws likely have never been out of this rifle before, and so they're still pretty tight. If you don't have a properly fitted screwdriver, you're going to really mess up the screw heads, and a collector can really spot that. You just get down really tight on it, can't get enough leverage. So I'm going to grab a cloth here. Let's make sure you're in the center of the screw. And then just tight enough. I'm not going to force it because that's going to upset the metal, and that's really ugly. You don't want to do that. So get this one hand started, and move on to the screwdriver. That one was a little easier. Okay, well, we got our rear sling swivel attached. What is next? We're going to flip this guy down onto a rag I have on the ground, and hopefully you're getting a good close-up of the dovetail in this stock. And look at that, there's another marking, a number 3 on the buttstock. What it means, nobody will ever know, but it's there. I'm going to put the butt plate on, and since these 2 screws are identical, I do recall that the more worn screw was at the corner here, which makes sense if this rifle is leaned up against something on the ground. That screw is going to get worn more. So that one goes on the top, and using our same fitted screwdriver, get a nice center bite in there, tighten down just enough to where there's pressure, no more. Okay, that's it. So now we got the butt plate back on, we have our stock all put together. Really the only thing left is to, well, I guess we're going to put the cleaning rod back in. That's not too difficult, anybody can figure that out. But there's a hole here, you may not be able to see it, but there's a hole in line with the bore, slides on in all the way down and screws in the clockwise direction. maybe not. I still haven't figured if this is just a friction fit cleaning rod, or if this is threaded. The cleaning rod itself is threaded, but I have a suspicion that I can't confirm that this is just a standard Japanese cleaning rod, and the Italians didn't thread the back of the receiver, because I don't remember seeing anything that was threaded that could receive a cleaning rod. Maybe I wasn't looking hard enough, but I didn't see anything obvious. Not like a Mosin or Mauser or something where it's obvious. But yeah, cleaning rod back in, and then to put the bolt in. Same as Mosin or Carcano, any mainstream older bolt action. Just put her in with the bolt handle up, with the trigger pulled, and it will stop because this is a Mauser style follower. And you push down the follower with your thumb, the bolt can close and lock. So I'm just going to give this a final wipe down with the t-shirt, and then give you guys a close-up look of the whole thing, and that'll be it. Hopefully the next video will be out shooting this. I picked up some ammo, and I'm going to do reloading for this, and I have a feeling this is going to be a really awesome shooter. I'm very excited about this rifle, and it's cleaned up beautifully. It's a really neat, old, unique gun. Very rare, very difficult to find, and also very inexpensive. Here's a look at a Japanese Type I Carcano close up. It has a lot of the features of your earlier Japanese Type 38 rifle, but you might be able to notice that this is a Carcano action, just fitted in a Japanese stock. Metal cleaned up beautifully. There's only rust below the stock line, and that all cleaned up. No real major pitting. This rifle definitely wasn't one that sat around in a warehouse. This saw some action somewhere. It had bayonet affixed at some point. There's wear on the magazine floor plate, as well as some high spots around. But yeah, pretty cool old rifle. Not a whole lot of these around in the US. Only about 60 to 100,000 of these were ever made, and very few of them actually made it back to the US. I know quite a lot of them came back as bringbacks, but even more of them, I'm sure, were destroyed in battle, or since this is a Japanese Navy rifle, a lot of these probably were sunk on ships and are at the bottom of the Pacific right now. This one is in great shape. It's a World War II vet bringback, and it's in 6.5 by 50 semi-rimmed Japanese, which is the standard caliber for the Type 38 rifle. But yeah, that stock split is normal. It's just the wood drying out. It's a dovetailed stock. But yeah, pretty cool little rifle. These are super inexpensive right now. This is probably the one of the last surplus bargains, or World War II rifle bargains out there. These are $200 to $300, and compared to a Mosin, this is far and above the workmanship and quality of a Mosin. If you can find one of these things and you don't mind reloading for 6.5 Japanese, this is probably worth picking up. You can see this is an A prefix serial number, one of the first 10,000 guns made. Case hardening on the bolt, blued receiver. Milling is excellent all over the gun, and just really, really cool military gun. I'm glad I picked it up. This is the Japanese Type I Carcano rifle, and I thank you for watching.
All these factors must be considered as we plan for the survival of our homes, our families, and our nation in the nuclear age.